Welcome to another episode of Sun Talk Show. So today we are going to do Emacs lisp coding, and the first 30 minutes I'm going to do Emacs lisp coding. So then after that I'm going to give you some updates on what's going on with my life, my websites, Wolfram language, Starfly keys news, some news about Starfly keys, my package, and Wolfram language, my favorite language. Okay, I'm chewing gums. So the first 30 minutes or so, I'm going to do Emacs lisp coding. So we are going to write a command that delete Emacs trash files. For example, let's go to Emacs init. So you can see this is my Emacs init directory. So let me turn on the highlight current line so you can see where is my cursor. So you see this is my Emacs init directory, and in your Emacs init directory you have several trash files, not trash files but Emacs state. For example, you have the bookmarks file, which is important, your bookmarks. Then you have the Emacs desktop file. This file records which buffers are open, which files are open, and their cursor position, so that when you restart Emacs, it will open, all your open files in previous session. And also when you open a file, it will place the cursor on your last cursor position when you close the file. Excuse me. So I'm chewing gum. Let me spit it out. So then there's ido. Ido is a mod. So it records, several information states of your Emacs. They are convenient features. And recent F, which records recently opened files. And so sometimes when you want to remove all those files, all these trash files. So we are going to write a command from scratch that you can call the command and also give it a key. So you press a few keys and it will delete certain, these trash files. So, for privacy purposes or whatever. And this is also great if you are learning Emacs lisp. So you can write this, you can copy what I'm doing, and you can, so your command will delete certain files, your files you want to delete. Now you can do it just by pressing a key. So let's do that. So I have been sick in the past week. Cold. It's not COVID, it's so cold. So yeah, so I've been sick, and I haven't done a Wolfram language for a long time. So I want to also get back to Wolfram language. I've updated. I did a lot of things. I've updated my Wolfram language tutorial, Wolfram language basics, Wolfram language, strings, list of functions. How do you find the documentation of a function? So all you have to do is just search for some Wolfram language tutorials. Excuse me. Oh, hi. So Tulithu on Discord. I believe I talked to you on voice last time. Great to see you. So Wolfram language is fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to get back to working on that. And if you haven't already, you can download it for free. I did like over 10 videos in the past, in the recent half a year. And, check out, great language, in my opinion, the best language, the most high level by a magnitude, programming language on earth. Nothing comes close. Not Haskell, not Clojure, not Erlang, whatever. Nothing comes close. The highest level. So I did several videos in the past about that. So you go check them out. So let's begin today's main thing. Yeah. So I've been sick. Yeah, I talked about that. Yeah. So Wolfram language. Okay. So so let's do today let's start to code Emacs lisp. Okay, if you have questions, comments, post it. Okay, I love to see your questions and comments, and donate to me. Okay, if you like my stuff, if you enjoy what I do, buy me a drink. $5 or whatever, PayPal or Patreon. You know where to find my website. It's on my website. So okay, so let's begin to do today's thing. So Emacs has all these random files littered. So we are going to write a command to clean them up, to delete those files. There are a lot of design decisions. For example, when you call the command, should it just delete it, or should it make a backup first? I don't know. So let's go through it and see. So first of all, which command you want to do? So let's see. So in your Emacs directory, okay, let's close this. So in the pink window is all my Emacs command calls and their keystroke. You can see anything I type, you can see it's reflected in the pink window. So I press a key. For example, delete that block, and you can see that command is that, and the key is E. And I'm using Aurora keyboard, and I'm using Xafly keys. Okay, so undo. So now let's work on the Emacs lisp live coding. So first of all, the first question is what command do we want to do, because there are several. Let me see. Okay. So let's go to my Emacs init directory, and what's your favorite font? Is that a troll question? I did a lot of video on that. Answer, okay? If you are not a troll, answer. I did a lot of video on that. So Emacs init directory. So let's see. First of all, let's quickly decide which command. So recent F. Okay, so let's see recent F. So there's recent F, and there's ido. Ido we need to delete. Ido. Okay, so let's start to do it. So let's copy the file path. Show the pink window. Copy the file path. Paste it here. So ido last is one of the things we want to delete, and places we can safely delete too without thinking too much. And SMEX items, we need to delete that, but we don't use that anymore since Emacs 28. In my last video, I talked about that. Okay, so let's just focus on these three. Okay. So ido last. So let's first of all clean up ido. Okay, so ido, ido is a Emacs feature where it pops up. When you switch to buffer, it pops up the vertical choices of a selection. So it's a convenient feature. Okay, let's not do ido because I need to explain. For you new Emacs users, you may gets complicated. Let's do the places first. Okay, so let me show you what that is. You go to search for Xali Emacs. Okay, so you search for Xali Emacs. There it is, Xali Emacs tutorial. Then you go to the init section, Emacs tutorial init. So this is all about how to customize Emacs. So what is init file? How do you make the standard copy, cut, paste, undo keys? Font setup, your question, what's your favorite font? There's a link here that talks about my favorite font. In fact, I did a YouTube video, so watch those. So Emacs init. So one of them is places. Okay, Emacs command names is not intuitive. Like, for example, let's open the file places. What is places? What does it mean? So, well, it means that Emacs record your cursor position right now. You see, look at my cursor position. You see, it's positioned there. Now I close the buffer and I reopen it. The cursor will be in the same place For example, like close it, press the key, closed. Now I want to open last closed. So I have a macro, open last closed. You can see my cursor is in the same place. But if you want to turn that off, we can turn that off. So anyway, that feature is that command. What's the command? It's called it's places. Okay, so let's find there. Okay, you see, restore things, restore open files, save cursor position, save command history. So one of them is save cursor position, and this mod is called save place. Okay, so Emacs name is not intuitive. This mod is called save place. It means save the cursor position. Okay, so and when you have this mod on, it will create this file places that records the cursor position. You can see here is a file, and here that number is the cursor position. Basically the 2664th character essentially. So now we want to write a command that delete this file. Okay, so let's just start to write the command. Okay, so let's Emacs lisp. Okay, so I'm using XAR HTML mod, and I'm also using XAR Emacs lisp mod. So for example, I type D space, it becomes define, space, it becomes a template for defining a function in Emacs lisp. You can see this is my command, Emacs lisp, XAR Emacs lisp mod, and XAR HTML mod. So if you like my stuff, you can buy them. It's not free, but it's open source. It's free software. Okay, so we are going to write a command, delete places. So let's start to document it. Delete the how do you say delete the temp file? It's not the temp file. It's delete the file for places. Okay, we need to think of better writing for the documentation. So new users can understand exactly what you mean. So yeah, let's do that. So delete the file. So first of all, what's the mod name? Save places. Okay, so this file is called save places. So in order to write this documentation, we actually need to start to look into Emacs lisp, the Emacs system, the whole system. So so meanwhile you are learning Emacs lisp coding, but you are also learning, watch how I go about finding information about things. So save places is the file. Okay, so this is the save places.el. Okay, that's the file in the Emacs lisp directory. But how do you there it is. Okay, so the mod is called save places mod. Okay, so here is the mod. Here's the mod name. This is the command you call to turn this mod on or off. Okay, now once we got the command, so this is the first thing we need to know. Once we got the command name, you can call describe function, then type save place mod, and it will show the documentation for the save place mod. Then you can jump to the source code. You see saveplace.el. So you can open it. You can see this is a source code for save place. So there's a documentation. The save place mod. The neo means automatically save place in each file, meaning cursor position. This means when you visit the file, visit means open. The Emacs idiotic, non-intuitive names, they refuse to change. Visit file means open the file. Okay, so places means cursor position. So this means when you open a file, point goes to the last place where it was when you previously visit the same file. So what is a point? Point is the cursor position. Okay, that's a Emacs jargon. So point is cursor position. Visit file means open a file, and place means cursor position. Okay, that's so you wonder why not many people use Emacs, because the tech nerds say, oh, Emacs is the best thing, but meanwhile there's lots of like learning and frustration. This is one good example. The Emacs GNU people, they should, okay, try to tell people, so we want intuitive names, so that once you have intuitive names, people understand. That makes Emacs easier to use, so so for example, change this these incomprehensible jargons. Emacs use these jargons because Emacs is almost the first text editor, 40 years ago. So they're gonna say the Emacs the Emacs phonetics will say we are the first. Cruiser is not called cruiser, it should be called point. Cut, should be called kill, and paste should be called yank, because we begin it, but things change, so use the more intuitive names. That's better for the Emacs, for the future of Emacs. So anyway, so here is the minor mod, save places mod, So what we do, so let's close that. So this is the mod. So first of all, we need to document document our function. Delete the file used for save place mod. That's how that's more that's kind of understandable way of documenting this function. So now we need to rename the function. Let's name it xar delete delete trash file. So how do you trash file? How do you you have to name the function properly. How do you call it? Should it call it trash file? It's not exactly a trash file. It's not a temp file neither. It's not a cache file. So how do you properly call this? Name this function. You can say state file. Delete state file for places. And that doesn't, like what the fuck is state file? So okay, let's just let's think about it later. Let's just use this name, delete file for places. That's not a very good name, but let's do it for now. So delete the file used for save places mod. So version number and so now we evaluate the buffer. So you can see we evaluated buffer, and we can call describe function. Describe function and type xar delete file for places, and now you can see the documentation for our function. Delete the file used for save place mod. Now you can see that save place mod is highlighted. It's linked. Why? Because we put this markup. There's a markup. So now you can actually jump to the file. You can jump to the save place command. Save place mod command, then you can jump to the save place source code. Anyway, let's get back to focus on writing this function. So delete the file used for save places mod. Now we can actually start to delete file. So let's delete file. And go back to where is the file located. Let's go back to talk show here. So there is the file path, and that will work. That will actually work. Prettify the code. That will actually work. Evaluate the buffer. Now split the buffer. Now go to my init file, use my bookmark, and go jump to the diode, the directory. So you can see here is my directory. So here is the places file. We have that there. Now I'm going to call the command. It should delete this file. Let's call the command. So copy the file, the command name, metax xar delete file for places. Do it. Done. Now go back to the diode buffer and press G for refresh, okay, G. You see, that file is gone. So we complete success, fantastic. We have finished one of our tasks. Now, but there's issues to fix because you see, right now we have hard coded the file path. That's no good because on your machine you are not XOR, so it won't work. So first thing to fix is to change that to a abbreviation. That tilde means the home directory, so that will work. Okay, but that's not all, because Emacs init file, there are several locations depending on the user, depending on your machine, depending how your Emacs init is set up. So for example, on Windows, on Windows, your Emacs directory might be in app data, app data local, or app data local Emacs, or app data local roaming, and on Windows. So you need to change this hard-coded file path so that it's flexible. How do you do that? This one. You see, save place file is a variable. That variable, the value of that variable is the file path where the save place stores the data. So you want to use that variable. Okay, so copy that, get back to Emacs. So there is a variable. Now we want to look at the documentation for this variable. So describe variable. Okay, describe variable, yes, save place file. Okay, so you can see the documentation for the variable. So save place file is a variable defined in saveplace.el. Okay, its value is that. Okay, that's fantastic. So now all we have to do is just to so instead of delete file, so let's just copy that here, there. So there. So that's the thing we want. We don't want this one anymore. Now prettify the code, prettify. Okay, that should be it. Okay, now let's save the file, evaluate the code, show the pink window, evaluate the buffer. Now Emacs know the updated version of this command. Now let's go back to my init file again, jump to the directory, check for the places file. No, it's gone. So now we need to recreate the places file. Okay, how do you do that? So we can do that by call save place mod. Let's turn it on and off. Maybe we'll create the places file again. Okay, so call it save place mod, do it, no match. Okay, I got a space. Okay, do it. Now it's disabled. You can see in the mini buffer it says disabled. Okay, now let's call it again, enable it. Okay, mini buffer says save place mod enabled. Okay, now refresh diode. Do we see places? No. Okay, maybe we need to close some file and reopen it. So close this file, reopen it, back to the diode buffer, refresh. Do we have the places file? Place, no. Okay. Okay, so that's a bit confusing. So you see, what we are trying to do now is to get the save place mod to create its, the places file. One easy way is just quit Emacs. If we quit Emacs now and restart, it'll show up. Yeah, but I'm trying to work around, so, I'm kind of trying to show you how to go about look for information and stuff. So right now we can, one easy way is just quit Emacs, restart, then you'll see the places file. The other way is to find out if there's a command in the save place mod that actually does the save. For example, one easy thing we can do is just try to meta-x save place. There's probably a command, save place, toggle save place globally. Okay, wow, there's quite a few. Okay, I don't know where it is. Okay, so let's describe function say place mod. So we can wait, turn it on, and describe function say place mod. Okay, now we look at the documentation of say place mod and go into the file. Wait, let's read the documentation. Nil means true. Okay, that's the Emacs jargon again. Nil means just true. Okay, nil means false. So nil means automatically save place in each file, save the cursor position in each file. This means when you open a file, point, blah blah blah. Okay, this is a minor mod. If called interactively, toggle the save place mod. If the prefix argument is positive, yeah. Okay, so how long have I been talking? We've been talking for 30 minutes. Let's get on. So let's jump into the source code. Okay, jump into the source code, expand the window. So first thing I do is call the command list matching lines. Okay, and type defun. Okay, that will list all the function definitions in this file. So now we have all the functions. So say place to a list, say place a list to file. Okay, that is probably what the command that actually saved to the file. This function say place a list to file. Okay, let's open it. Let's jump to it. And now let's search the function name to see where this function is called. Okay, search. Okay, there it is. Say place kill Emacs hook. Okay, yeah. So you see, this function say place kill Emacs hook is a hook that is probably added to the Emacs quit hook. So when Emacs quit, this function is called. And what does this function do? This function calls the command say places a list to file. Indeed, just as my, our guess. Excuse me, I got a cold. So you see, excuse me. So Emacs, so the way it works, the say place, let's go to my init file, okay? Init file, go to diet. So when does the say place mod save the file? Well, it calls, when you turn on the say place mod, basically it adds this function, say place kill Emacs hook, to the Emacs quit hook, okay? And what this function, so that means when Emacs quit, this function will be called. And what this function do, this function just call say place a list to file. It will save the file. And so we can call it ourselves. So we can actually just evaluate this code. Okay, you see we got the Emacs list code here. We can evaluate this code right away. And once we do, you'll see a places file in my Emacs init directory. So let's do it. Okay, now watch the pink window. You can see the command call. Do it. Okay, it doesn't. Well, yeah, it did. Okay, so you see eval last sexp. That means symbolic expression. Okay, so that means we just evaluate this function, and now in this diet buffer in my init directory, now press G to refresh. There it is. Places. You see the file reappears. You see, fantastic. So now open it. You can see this is all my lots of places in this section, in this Emacs session. It restores all the places. Okay, so you see a large file. Let's do a backup. Okay, now I have a personal command. I just press a key, it does a backup on this file. So that command is make backup and save. If you search that command name on the web, you will find the code. You can use it. Okay, so now we made a backup. Now let's call our command again. Let's go to the Emacs lisp. Okay, where is our Emacs lisp? close that there. So let's call our command again. It should delete the places file. Okay, so delete this file. Okay, so let's call XOR delete file for places. Okay, do it. Now go to diet, type G for refresh. Fantastic, it's good. So our code is success and final. Okay, now maybe some cleanup. So we don't need this part anymore. We don't need the let. So delete the let. That's it. Simple and functional. Now pop it back to my HTML file. So you can see it's here. You can see now show in browser. There it is, our code today. And let's syntax color it. So let's my own command, XOR HTML file, XOR HTML mod. Show in browser again. You can see now, today that's our fruit. For the past 30 minutes, we did it. Fantastic. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben Holtzman, for the money. Fantastic. Fantastic. I can buy a drink or a coffee or something, a burger. So now, fantastic. Okay, so we did one of them. Now they are, save places. So that's fairly good. This complete, fairly complete, reasonable complete. This is a final version. I don't think there's anything else to do. So that's one thing done. Okay, that's one thing done. Now let's go back to my Emacs init directory. Okay, so you can see there are some others. For example, this ido. We can write a command to clear the ido. So what does that do? Is that ido is like, it records when you do switch to buffer command. When you call the command switch to buffer. Let me show you where. Okay, so hold on a second. Cancel. You see, there's a command switch to buffer. Very, very commonly used command. So idomod allows you to have a kind of very convenient interface for completion. So so that's idomod. There are many varieties. For example, Helm. Some of you use Helm. Some of you use Ivy something. There's quite a lot. And recently I learned there's a vertical. There's a margin-lina. The new generation, new generations of Emacs lisp coders. So anyway, so ido is a built-in Emacs mod, minor mod that has this convenience. So why is idomod record this file? What is this file for? So that when you switch to buffer, it will remember which buffer is the most recently used. It's very typical in Emacs where you have like 100 buffers open. That's actually pretty common. After you use Emacs for a week, sometimes people don't quit Emacs. I quit every day. I quit every few hours, because if you code Emacs lisp, often you want to restart because I'm not going to explain, but basically if you code a lot Emacs lisp, you necessarily you have to do a lot restart. So I restart my Emacs almost every day, at least once. But I've been using Emacs for 20 years. For some years, early days, from year 1999, I don't quit Emacs. Emacs once open, it lasts for days, for weeks. So sometimes you have 100, literally over 100 buffers open. So when you call switch to buffer, the ido feature allows you to, it remembers which buffer you use most often. So the choices shows up on top, So that's why idomod has this file. Now, I talked about in my last video, Emacs 28. has a new feature, Fido. So basically, ido became essentially obsolete. Basically you don't use ido anymore. Emacs 28 is great. Lots of features. I like to mention, especially one of the feature is natively compiled Emacs Lisp code. That is one of the great feature in the past 10 years, because that means now when you write Emacs Lisp code, your code is as efficient as if you write the same thing in Python or Ruby or PHP or JavaScript. Okay, so Emacs Lisp now is comparable to these languages in terms of speed. Okay, native compilation. Now that works great if you are using on Linux, but on Windows it's more complex because it's hard to compile Emacs on Windows, because you need the GNU compiler, the GNU C compiler. You need those, and on Windows it's usually hard to work with GNU compilers. So anyway, it's a great feature. Okay, so sooner or later it's gonna be popular on Windows as well, because people have they will provide precompiled version for you for Windows. So anyway, so Emacs 28 is great, native compilation of Emacs Lisp code. So that means your Emacs Lisp code, whatever you do, I've done a lot of video of in the past year. You can watch using Emacs Lisp to do text processing. That's the best feature of Emacs Lisp. You go through few thousand files. You want to change something, text processing with Emacs Lisp, and Emacs Lisp is more suitable than any other language. Emacs Lisp is for text processing task. Emacs Lisp is more powerful, more flexible, and easier to use than Ruby, Perl, Python, PHP, JavaScript, or Golang. Trust me on that, okay? Because I've done that for 10 years, writing text processing jobs using Emacs Lisp. But however, there was a major flaw, and that flaw is it's like 3 times slower than using any of the others. And but now that is fixed, okay? Now that so now Emacs Lisp became the best language, kind of by a magnitude, the best language if your job is to do small scale text processing. Typically processing a few thousand files, 10,000 files, no problem. But if you are gonna text process a million files, if you are at Google, then it's not probably, it's then you want Golang, C++, or Java, or a meta language, or Camel, or But for typical practical, programmers, or at small companies, if you want to do text processing, Emacs Lisp is truly the best language. Why? The fundamental reason is because it provides the essentially a data structure called rope, or similar to rope. Okay, essentially what it means is that it provides a data structure that allows you to have a glorified string, which is called buffer. Okay, meaning that you can, a buffer data structure is just like a string. It's like an elaborate string. Typically in other programming languages, you have the string data type, right? Perl, Ruby, Python, JavaScript, and Golang, Java, or even C. You have a string data structure, and typically they are immutable. And typically, it's not efficient when you want to modify the string, because every time you change the string, you take a substring or you do regular expression to, capture or replace part of the string. It has to recreate, it has to create a new string from scratch. And that is very computational costly, slow. But in Emacs Lisp, you have this kind of a glorified string data structure called buffer. Okay, now technically that's called a rope data type. Okay, let me see if I can show some Wikipedia article. So here is the rope data structure. Now Emacs Lisp is not using buffer, is not using rope, I believe. I believe it's not, but it's using something similar. But essentially the idea is that the buffer data type allows you to have it's like a string, but you can have a cursor position, you can delete any part of it, you can go to any other part, delete part of it, or insert, or go here, insert something. So if you do this a lot with a typical programming language string, that's very inefficient. Okay, you need a dedicated data structure for this, and that is in Emacs. That's Emacs buffer. So that is why Emacs buffer, that's the nature of Emacs. That's what Emacs is designed for. The buffer. So, but with Emacs Lisp, you can control it programmatically. So that's why Emacs is a kind of a magnitude, the best language for text processing beyond Perl, Python, Ruby, JavaScript, any of the others, or Golang. Why? Because it has the dedicated data structure for basically constantly manipulating strings. Okay, that's kind of a large digression. Okay, let's undo. Yeah, okay, I don't want to screw up my page. Okay, so I think that's it for today. So thank you a lot for Chujung of Lamio. Thank you, great. Fantastic. So there's a question. Can you serve Emacs Lisp via language server protocol and Emacs in daemon mod? What do you mean? Okay, so answer my question. Okay, you are still here, right? So what do you mean? So Emacs gets kind of slow if it is open for too long. I need to learn more garbage collection techniques. Okay, so there are two questions. One is about Emacs being slow when it's open for too long. Not really. I would say not really. Okay, so Emacs you can, I wouldn't say so. Okay, so you can have Emacs open for several days, for a week. It doesn't really get slow. It doesn't leak memory. Well, arguably it gets slower, but so that's why I recommend you just restart Emacs every few days or every day. It depends on your workflow. For me these days I restart Emacs every few hours actually. So let's see what buffers I have open. So for example, I have I'm not going to restart now. So anyway, yeah, I would recommend restart Emacs, and also Emacs doesn't really get slow, as opposed to many other applications today. For example, browser. Browser, once you use a few days, it really gets slow because it's far more complex than Emacs browser today. In terms of lines of code or in terms of the technology, a browser is a magnitude more complex than entire Emacs. Entire Emacs. So I would say Emacs is not, it doesn't have, these leak memory problems. Yeah, there's garbage collection, but it's like, I wouldn't say it's a big deal. Okay, so that's my answer for that. As for Emacs Lisp, there's a Emacs Lisp language server protocol. Okay, that's let me answer about that. Can I serve Emacs Lisp over Lisp to VS Code? Like I don't know what you mean. So let me explain, okay, and answer as I go. So you have the the language server protocol. The language server protocol is something Microsoft invented. It's a protocol. It's a communication protocol. Basically a standard, protocol, meaning like a standard format that is used between applications. For example, between Emacs or any text editor and some programming language engine, some compiler, for example. For example, if you are coding C or Java, for example. So on one side you have the editor, you have Emacs, you have Vim, you have VS Code. So we can open this in VS Code, for example. XR open in VS Code. So let's open this page, my XR talk show in VS Code. So any editor, So you have the editor. Then the editor needs to do several things. Syntax highlighting. For example, in my XR HTML mod, I can delete the whole group. For example, I have a list here, an ordered list. I can select it. I can press one key, it'll select the whole unordered list. Okay. Now, how does that do? How does it know where is the beginning and where is the end? Well, there are several methods. The way a traditional Emacs lisp, Emacs mod do is that, for example, let's show. So I press the key. Okay. So that's tab E is the key I press, in XR HTML mod. So the command is XR HTML select element. It will select the previous group of element. For example, if my cursor is here, I press the key, it'll select the entire unordered list. Okay, so that's a command. Then you can jump to the source code, jump to it. Here is the source code written in Emacs Lisp. So you can see, let's now go to diet. You can see here's my, XR HTML mod. And here is the source code. So this is written in Emacs Lisp. So this Emacs Lisp code, it will try to find, where's the beginning, where's the end, and make a selection. Okay. So the editor has all these tasks that helps you do editing, and including one of the tasks is syntax highlighting, and another task is comment. For example, I can press a key, then I have HTML comment. I can press the key again, it toggles the comment. Okay, for example, the delete, I can select the whole comment. You see. So how does the editor know where to add a comment and what character to add? Well, in this case, again, it's Emacs Lisp. So we can jump to the code. You can see that here's the code, that finds the beginning and end and finds, So editor needs to do all sort of tasks. And traditionally, the editor does the job by, in the Emacs case, you use the Emacs Lisp programming language. In VI, you use whatever VI, C code, basically, they implemented, And in VS Code, traditionally, you use the JavaScript. VS Code is written in JavaScript. So you use the JavaScript to find the location and you do the thing, including syntax color. Now, about 10 years ago, Microsoft came up with the language server protocol. Okay, I have an article on that. Okay. Okay, so if you search for XR Emacs, search for that. So this is my essay. Language server protocol kills Emacs. So 10 years ago, 2006, 2005, Microsoft invented the language server protocol, which is a communication protocol used between applications, essentially between the editor, text editor, VI, Emacs, VS Code, Visual Studio Code, or whatever, between text editor and the compiler engine. So when the text editor needs to do something such as comment uncommon code or syntax coloring, the editor uses the language server protocol. It basically sends a message to the compiler engine. In the case, for example, I'm working on HTML, so it sends a language server protocol message to some sort of HTML parser. For example, it can send to browser. Then the browser gets a message and reply, sends back to the Emacs, sends back information to Emacs, tells Emacs that where's the beginning, where's the end, and you should do, what you should do to those positions. That's the purpose of language server protocol. So now the question is, why do you need it? For example, in Emacs, you have Emacs Lisp. Why do you need, a language server protocol? Why do you need to? Now it's more complex because now you need to use a protocol. You need to talk to another application, in this case, HTML parser. Or if you are coding C, you talk to the C compiler, LLVM compiler, whatever tools, what they call these days, the tooling, So you use the language server protocol to talk to dedicated tools that understand the language, JavaScript compiler. Then, why do you need to do that? Well, the reason is that for many languages, for example, Emacs, for example, JavaScript, or C or C++ or Java, these languages, the task of parsing the languages today becomes extremely complex. So you can write, for example, in Emacs Lisp, for example, I have a JavaScript. For example, so you are looking at XAR JavaScript mod, okay? So, you are looking at XAR JavaScript mod. So I can console log 3 plus 4. I can evaluate it. I need to save the file. So xx.js, okay? I save the file. I can run it. You can see the result is 7. So again, how do I do that? Well, let me show you, okay? So again, I use Emacs Lisp. I have lots of code, 700, 2,000, 600 lines of code to do all these things. But JavaScript is JavaScript or C or any language is fairly complex these days. So my mod, for example, doesn't do lots of things, for example, variables, constant, okay? Let's say constant v equals to 3, okay? Now let's say I want to print v. Now you see, I would like the v to be highlighted. I want all variables to be highlighted, but it's not. Why? Because in order to write that code, to highlight all variables, it's very difficult. You need a complete JavaScript parser. You cannot just do it with regular expression. In order to properly highlight all variables, local variables, you need a complete JavaScript engine. So that is why the language server protocols comes in, because there are lots of dedicated JavaScript engines written by professionals for 10 years. So you use language server protocol. You send a message, Emacs send a message to them. They reply, tell you where are the positions of the local variables. Then your Emacs can just highlight them. So in this way, the task of dealing with the language in an editor is much simpler. You just send a message to the dedicated compilers or whatever to do the job for you. So that's the Microsoft invention, language server protocol. And today, you have a lot of Emacs mod for JavaScript, for for Java, for C that uses this. So instead of for example, XAR JavaScript mod, instead of writing a mod, in Emacs Lisp or whatever language, to do the very complex, for example, you need to know all the keyword in the language. For example, all these are keyword in JavaScript. It's not really trivial. You have to know you have to parse the language. So now you just use language server protocol, so that these dedicated compilers can do it for you. So that's the job of language server protocol. So I suppose your question is, why don't we use that? So my opinion on this is no good. It's not a strong opinion. I mean, it's very, language server protocol is extremely useful, and it's actually the proper way to do things, okay? Because, in editor, you have lots of languages, Java, JavaScript, C++, tons of languages, Haskell. So on one hand, you can write Emacs Lisp code to deal with them. On the other hand, you can use dedicated tools, dedicated JavaScript compilers, Haskell compilers for them. Then you use the language server protocol to talk to them. That is actually the proper way, proper engineering. But there's a critical practical flaw. That is, it kills Emacs. Okay, that is my claim. That is my claim. It kills Emacs. It kills Emacs Lisp. Because after 10 years, Emacs Lisp is going to lose its major major advantage. The Emacs Lisp is very powerful today because of the Emacs Lisp. Because we can, I can write all these tools to do it. But Emacs Lisp has kind of been dying a little, well, in Emacs 28, we have native compilation with the Emacs Lisp, so that's fantastic. But I would push for more improvement of Emacs Lisp. I would not, I'm not too excited about language server protocol because that will kill Emacs. So I would push for more improvement of Emacs Lisp and push for, we have a lot, if you read my article, I go into detail. And I go into detail, I tell you there are a lot great Emacs compiler experts who are also Emacs Lisp experts. I list several of them. For example, Marajin Haverbeck. He is a JavaScript expert. Okay, he has written JavaScript compilers in Emacs Lisp or in JavaScript. Then we have, anyway, these are people who are compiler experts of various languages. Christopher Wellens is a great, deep Emacs Lisp expert, the heart of Emacs Lisp, including C, C implementation of Emacs Lisp in C. So he knows a lot, and he has also written, very deep code. And Emacs file check author, Lunarum, he's also expert. And Phil Hagerberg, expert in Clojure, expert in also what's the language? Luna. Anyway, so this, and Stefan Monier, he's a functional programming professor. He do research in functional programming languages. Great guy. John Wigley is a C++ compiler expert for 10 years. Steve Yeg is also a language researcher at Google for 10 years. He no longer works at Google. And Lars Magne, Inga Brinsen. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. And Eric Ludham, he's famous for CDET. He write JavaScript, Java, he's an expert. All these are Emacs Lisp expert, at least, and compiler expert of many different languages. James Clark is the topmost expert in XML, okay? He wrote XML mod in Emacs Lisp. That's better than any XML mod in the world. Okay, so why am I mentioning these people? Because these people are great Emacs Lisp experts and great compiler experts. They can write. If you improve Emacs Lisp, I don't want language server protocol crap. I don't want Emacs starting to use language server protocol and talk to some other tools. Okay, let's improve Emacs Lisp. Okay, this Emacs Lisp still needs a lot of improvements. Let's improve Emacs Lisp, and these people, including me, I can do whatever I can in some higher level kind of code. We will improve. We will make Emacs. We will create language tools in Emacs Lisp, possibly even better than the dedicated compilers out there. Okay, now in some languages such as C++, that's impractical because C++ and C, these kind of languages, they require, they have like 40 years of history. They require very, very complicated compiler optimizers and so on, and parsers. So in those languages, it's kind of hopeless. But still, my position, I would recommend, I'm doing my talk show, so I'm going, on a tangent. So I'm telling you guys, let's focus on Emacs Lisp, okay? Learn Emacs Lisp like today we've done, and let's improve Emacs Lisp. Let's put more focus on Emacs Lisp, not the language server protocol. So I don't use it myself. I never used it myself. I prefer to, I prefer going the Emacs native way. Okay, that's my question. That's my answer. I don't know if I answered your question. So your question about Emacs Lisp. So your question is about, can you use language server protocol on Emacs Lisp? Yes, but in that case, there's not much for that, because Emacs Lisp, the best tool, the tooling for Emacs Lisp, the language, is Emacs Lisp itself. So in the Emacs Lisp case, you don't use language server protocol, because you are using Emacs. That's the best tooling. So in the Emacs Lisp case, you don't use language server protocol. So I hope I answered that question. And Emacs daemon mod, that's another thing that's great. I don't use myself because Emacs daemon mod, I can press a key, it will start another Emacs, for example. Did I do it? Wait, let me show. So for example, I press a key, I'm starting another Emacs instance, totally unconnected. I press the key again, I have another Emacs instance. So now I can change the background. Let's say set background color, okay? Set background color, set background color, okay? Let's say 10, okay? Now this one, set background color, let's say silver, okay? Let's say corn silk. Okay, so you can see I have now 3 Emacs instances independent of each other. So in this way, I don't have to wait for something that's stuck. For example, in this buffer, if I'm running something that's stuck for a while, eShell or whatever, eShell is very fast. But anyway, I can just run something else over here. I can start to look at my talk show page, so so I don't use daemon myself. Daemon is usually, if you want to Emacs to start up fast, I can start another Emacs instance, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, So I don't use daemon. So anyway, I hope that answered the question. That's it. Okay. So thank you guys for watching. So we talked for 70 minutes. That's it. We shut down. Okay. So let me close my Emacs instances. Okay, that's it. So I'm shutting down. Close that. So Emacs language protocol, we talked about that. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. So let's paste the link here. So today we wrote this code. Fantastic. XR delete file for places. Who is watching? 5 people. Bye guys. Okay, so I want to talk random for 2 minutes or so. So I got sick past week, a cold. What else? So XR flag keys is now in Emacs. I mean, it's in, let's go to Emacs blog. So XR flag keys is now in GNU Alpha. So if you don't know, GNU Alpha is in GNU Alpha. So you can get it from, GNU Alpha is the Emacs repository hosted by Free Software Foundation. But it's not part of the officially GNU, project. By the way, Ergo Emacs mod is officially in a GNU, Emacs GNU, part of the GNU project. But, I had to sign paper. And GNU Alpha is, so it's Emacs, it's Free Software Foundation's repository for Emacs packages, but they are not officially part of the GNU project. So it's like Melpa, okay? So it's like Melpa. So anyway, XR keys is there. What else? That's it. I'm getting hungry. So thank you guys for watching. Let's see what else. Thank you guys for watching. What other news? Yeah, I'm getting tired. So yeah, so next few days I'm gonna start to do live stream more again. Maybe every 2 or 3 days. And it's been a while. We did Wolfram language. I'm going to do that again. Thank you guys. Bye. Yeah, shut down. So in stream. I'm hungry, so yeah, I'm gonna eat. So Visual VS Code, close VS Code, close